I love channel strips, and today we're going to look at one of my favorites, the Sonimus Satson CS. Let's get into it. I've been using Sonimus plugins for probably the last 10 years, most notably the Son EQ Pro and the now discontinued Britson. What I love about Sonimus plugins is that they keep it simple. They specialize in making the very best analog, vintage sounding plugins. This means they create amazing console emulations, EQs, compressors, and of course, channel strips. And that's where the Satson CS comes into play. So what's the Satson channel strip all about? Well, it's essentially a virtual rack plugin that lets you stack up to 8 different modules in one easy-to-use interface. You've got everything here for crafting individual elements, subgroups, or even an entire mix. And the best part, it's all designed to feel like high-end analog gear. So you get that warm, classic sound without the headache of dealing with real hardware. So one of the coolest things about this plugin is just how intuitive it is to use. You can simply drag and drop the modules to rearrange your signal chain however you like. If you want to add something new, just hit Add Module and keep going. And if you make a mistake, the undo or redo buttons, they work like a charm. Plus, it's scalable so you can adjust the interface size to fit your screen perfectly. Let's take a closer look at some of the top features. The preamp module gives you analog style gain staging with options like vintage and modern crosstalk to add that subtle stereo depth. And if you're looking for some serious punch, there's a fat mode for extra saturation that's perfect for making the low end thump. And if that's too much, you can tweak the gain compensation so you don't blow out your mix. Next up, the compressor module. It's inspired by a classic bus compressor, think the SSL bus comp, but it offers way more flexibility. You get control over attack, release, ratio, and you can even blend dry and compressed signals with the mix knob for parallel compression. Super useful for drums or vocals. Finally, let's check out the Satson EQ. It's got a straightforward design with 4 bands that let you go surgical or musical. There are parametric mids and both high and low cuts that really help your track sit nicely in the mix. So that's a quick overview of the Satson channel strip. It's a killer plugin that's easy to use, but powerful enough to handle any mix. But how does it sound? Let's pull up a session and find out. Okay, so here's a demo I've been working on. It's essentially got some scratch vocals, acoustic guitars, a very simple bass line, and some steel guitar and drum loops that I got from Arcade. This is how I like to write and produce music. I mean, I just want to give myself and the engineers I work with an idea of what I'm going for with the final recordings and production. But who says demos have to sound bad? So I've basically done a very rough 15-minute mix of this demo just using the Satson channel strip plugin. That's all I've used, minus a reverb send for my vocal. Everything else is the channel strip. So I'm going to play you part of the song where you can hear it without the plugin and then with the plugin engaged. When we're done, I'll go through a few of the individual tracks to show you some of the moves I made. Feel free to listen with headphones. Let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to start out listening to the song with the channel strips bypassed. And I'm going to cycle through kind of as we go through the song. Let's get into it.
I've been thinking alone at night, and there's a light out of reach, but I can feel it. Sometimes I want to be alright. I want to understand the world for just a minute, but I'm taking it easy. We're just a few lights in the night sky, and everything's changing. Sometimes it all gets crazy when the bombs and the lies are exploding. When your friend becomes your enemy, it's the modern day world as we know it, but I'm taking it easy. 'Cause we're just a few lights in the night sky, and everything's changing.
All right, so there you have it. I mean, just, keep in mind, like, this is a demo. And this was like a 15-minute mix, and it's really just me using the channel strip. You know, like on first listen, what stands out to me is the vocal top end stands out above the mix. And we'll look at what I did to the vocal. I would say in general, the song just sounds kind of more glued together. It sounds fuller, sounds fatter. And that's because, you know, I was using the plugin on every channel. Some of the tracks I made bigger moves. Some I made really small moves. There is a instance of the Saxon on the master track. And I did very subtle moves on that as well. But let's take a look at a few of the individual tracks just so I can show you what I did. Let's look at the vocal. So, you know, one of the first things I did was I worked with the gain staging. You can see I did a bit of low cut. I pushed the gain staging up a bit, and I added the fat channel. Did a little bit of light compression, and I boosted some of the top end, and I notched out some of the kind of woofy sounding frequencies, like, you know, maybe around like 500 hertz in my vocal. Yeah, so that's what I did to the vocal. Let's pull up the acoustic guitars. So I've got like a main guitar, which is a J45. I worked on the gain staging a little bit. Didn't really use the compressor at all. And again, I just kind of boosted the top end and kind of, you know, generally notched out some frequencies that didn't sound great. It's not a great sounding acoustic guitar to begin with. I just kind of recorded it in here on my SM7B. It sounds okay, but it's not great. Now, I also recorded some high-strung acoustics, panned left and right, and I basically have a bus. So let's pull those up and see what I did here. So again, you can see that I boosted on the gain staging. Didn't really use the compressor. Didn't really need to. I mean, you don't really need to compress high stringy sounding acoustic guitars. But again, I just kind of, you know, boosted the top end a little bit and just kind of notched out some not pleasing sounding frequencies, used a high pass filter to cut out some of the low end rumble. And those guitars sound really chimey. They shimmer right through the mix. And then, so on the drums, I've got two drum loops. I've basically got like a beat, and then I also threw in a snare, but then I have those in a drum bus. So let's look at the drum bus. You know, did some gain staging, did a tiny bit of light EQ, mostly cut some frequencies, a little bit of a high pass filter, and then just a little bit of compression. That's what I did. I mean, that they were already processed drums, so it's not like they need to be like squashed. I just wanted the drums to feel a little fuller, just to kind of be glued together a little bit. I think it sounds just fine. And then let's look at the master track. So here I pulled the gain staging down a little bit, and I did that as kind of like a volume matching thing. You know, it sounds fine to me. Little bit of very light compression and just very small moves on the EQ. I didn't really do much. I just wanted to put it on the master track just to add a little bit of extra glue. So yeah, that's what the track sounds like. I just used the channel strip. I think there's a really big difference in how it sounds. And it just goes to show you that if you're making, you know, demos or mixing full songs, you can do a lot really quick on the ground floor with a channel strip plugin. And then from there, it's just going to make the mixing process a lot easier. So I hope that you found this helpful. So there you have it. If you're looking for a channel strip plugin that is simple and easy to use, that blends the analog world with a modern touch, I could not recommend the Saxon channel strip enough. I will leave a link to the plugin down below. All right, well, thanks for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure and give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and make sure and leave a comment down below. All right, well, take care of yourselves. Peace out. We'll catch you next time on the channel. Take care.